Hola clase, esta noche vamos a hablar del pretérito. Vamos a hablar de las conjugaciones y sus usos también. This is pretty much all review. If you have an AR verb, we're going to go through the different endings. This is just a regular AR verb. Por ejemplo, patinar. In the yo form, patiné. Tú patinaste. Él patinó. Nosotros patinamos. Notice it's the same in the preterite and the present, so you know if it's past tense by using context clues. Vosotros patinasteis. And ellos, ellas, ustedes patinaron. For ER and IR verbs, they follow this pattern. It's for both ER and IR. Escondí, escondiste, escondió, escondimos, escondisteis. Oops, that's supposed to be an E. And escondieron. Esconder, to hide. So if you want to say they hid, ellos escondieron. Here are all the irregulars in the preterite tense. These are the different roots for all of them. Make sure you write down the roots, and then in a moment you're going to see all of the endings that go with the irregulars. Okay, notice in the dar and ver, they're both exactly the same, except dar is with a D, ver is with a V. Ir and ser are conjugated exactly the same. So you know what you're talking about, whether you're saying to go or to be, based on context clues. Take a moment to pause the video and write down all of these irregulars and their roots. Here are the endings for the irregular verbs. Notice there are no accents. Notice it's kind of a mix between AR endings and ER-IR endings. In the ellos form, you've got J-E-R-O-N. Those are the times where you have verbs like decir, or traer, okay? Any of them that go with D-I-J or traer, T-R-J, okay? Any that have the J in it, the J replaces the I. So it's not dijeron, it's dijeron. There we go. So it just doesn't have the I. Now, if you have stem changing IR verbs, they're going to stem change in the L in the ellos form. Okay, those are the only times it's going to stem change. So AR verbs that stem change in the present tense, they don't matter. It's just IR stem changing. So, por ejemplo, yo no dormí, pero Mickey durmió. So in the yo form, I don't stem change, but in the L form, I do. So all O to UE stem changes go O to U stem changer. All E to IE or E to I will go E to I in the preterite tense. So here's just a few examples of the many stem changing IR verbs. If you have verbs that end in ER or IR that have two vowels in a row like leer or caer, you use a Y in the preterite tense, in the L in the ellos form. Okay? You also use I accent for all of the other pronouns. Leí, leíste. It's going to be leíste. Then you go leyó, leímos, leísteis. And then leyeron has the Y. Now remember about car, gar, zar. If you have a verb in the CAR, in the car, its stem changes to Q-U-E with an accent. So it's not busé, it becomes busqué. If I kept my C here, this does not say busqué. That's why we have to retain the Q-U-E. It's to retain that sound, the K sound. Same with jugar. If I just had this, that actually says jugué. So that doesn't make any sense. Now, these are only for the yo form. So you don't use these same rules in the tú, el, and so on. So, por ejemplo, yo empecé a dibujar hace 2 horas. I started to draw 2 hours ago. Pero Daisy empezó hace 3 horas. But Daisy started 3 hours ago. So notice in my yo form, I have to do the cargar rule, but in my ella form, I go back to the Z. ¿Cuándo se usa el pretérito? These are the 4 different times that you use the preterite. We're separating preterite and imperfect because eventually we're going to put them together. So these are really important to take note on when we use the preterite. So we're going to give an example for all 4 of these different times that you use the preterite. So make sure you're writing down the ejemplos también. You use them for single events, something that just happened on a certain day, one time. For example, ellos jugaron en el parque. They played in the park. They didn't used to play in the park. They weren't playing in the park. It's a completed action, one time, single event. Ellos jugaron en el parque. The second time you use them are for actions that are repeated a specific number of times or occurred during a specific time. So, por ejemplo, Minnie jugó al tenis por 3 horas. Minnie played tennis for 3 hours. That is a very specific time. It's got a specific start and end, 3 years. You use the preterite for a chain of events. For example, yo me levanté, me vestí, y por fin me peiné. I got up, I got dressed, and finally, I brushed my hair. This is just a chain of events of saying what you completed and what you did in the past. And finally, it's for beginning or the end of something. Por ejemplo, cuando fuimos a la playa, empezó a llover. When we went to the beach, it started to rain. It started only happens once, so I'm using the preterite. Empezó a llover. Here are key words to look for. Again, when we start talking about the preterite verse imperfect, these key words are going to be very important, but it's good to know them now. Okay, like we said, you use the preterite when you're talking about specific time in the past, so it makes sense that ayer, anoche, la semana pasada, or el año pasado, or el fin de semana pasado, anything with pasado in it would specify that you're using preterite. So ayer means yesterday, anoche means last night, la semana pasada means last week, or anything pasada, pasado means last. En abril is just specific time, so if you see en any month or any day, then it's going to be in the preterite. Por 2 meses, for 2 months. Por 3 años, for 3 years. Por 4 semanas, for 4 weeks. Whatever it is, that's a specific time in the past. And then hace 5 años, hace 3 días. Hace means ago, so 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 days ago. Any of those are going to be preterite. Other signifiers are de repente, which means suddenly, una vez, which means one time, or ya, which means already. Adiós, clase. Hasta mañana.